Welcome to this explainer. If you've ever flipped through these ancient biblical texts, it's kind of easy to see the whole thing as just a chaotic mosaic of totally disconnected stories, right? Like you get a massive flood over here, you've got some prophet doing something bizarre over there, or a temperamental fisherman failing spectacularly on a beach. It feels beautiful, sure, but honestly, completely random. But what if it's not? What if, beneath the surface of all these isolated events, there's actually a hidden mathematical signature?
Okay, let's dive into this, because that hidden rhythmic signature is the number 3. When you really start looking closely at the source material, you realize this digit is literally everywhere. It echoes through the pages, it structures timelines, conversations, and even cosmic blueprints. It's not just a number, guys. It's a pattern that fundamentally changes how we read these texts.
So you kind of have to ask yourself, when looking at this recurring pattern, is this just a random accident, just some massive literary coincidence? Or is it the text's intentional, built-in signature signaling something very specific, what the sources actually call divine completeness? Well, today we're going to look at the evidence suggesting this number signals exactly when a process has reached its absolute peak.
Moving right into Section 1, the weight of 3. Here is where we look at the undeniable pattern.
When we analyze the really heavy, deeply consequential moments in the source material, this pattern becomes absolutely undeniable. Just look at these two incredibly prominent figures. Peter didn't just stumble or fail in some vague way. He denied Jesus exactly 3 times. And Paul, when he was suffering from his mysterious thorn in the flesh, he didn't just offer up a casual one-off prayer. No, he begged exactly 3 times for it to be removed before he finally heard the answer that grace was sufficient. The triad literally marks the absolute limit of human endurance and failure.
And it goes all the way up to the heavenly realms too. In the texts, the seraphim, these terrifyingly beautiful beings, cry out Kadosh, 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 which translates to holy, holy, holy. But wait, why not 4 or 2? Well, it's a great question. In the Hebrew linguistic method, if you want to say something is very holy, you say it twice. But to say it is supremely holy, moving beyond any category you've ever imagined into an absolute superlative, you absolutely must say it exactly 3 times.
Which brings us to Section 2, the inner circle, the first responders.
To see how this builds, we can zoom in on the micro-level relational architecture of the disciples. Jesus chose 12 disciples, which, on its own, is an awesome echo of the 12 tribes of Israel. But within that broader group, there was an inner triad: Peter, James, and John. These 3 functioned as the ultimate first responders. They were the only ones invited into 3 intensely private, groundbreaking moments: the raising of Jairus' daughter, the miraculous transfiguration, and the profound agony of Gethsemane.
So the crucial point we have to think about is, why these 3?
Well, the text relies on messy, unqualified humans. This inner circle wasn't made up of perfect Stoics at all. It consisted of a highly temperamental fisherman, Peter, and 2 brothers, James and John, who were literally nicknamed the Sons of Thunder because they had a habit of wanting to call down fire on their enemies. This triad pattern clearly uses broken raw material to prove a point about divine completeness.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the pattern resolves itself. Remember Peter's 3 agonizing denials from earlier? After the resurrection, Jesus meets Peter on a beach. Notice the incredible symmetry of this interaction. Jesus doesn't shame him. Instead, he asks him one single question exactly 3 times. Do you love me? For every denial, there's a reinstatement. Jesus perfectly balances those 3 no's with 3 yeses to achieve a completely full redemptive conclusion. The triad literally heals the triad. It's amazing.
Let's zoom out to Section 3, the architecture of a life, focusing on the Moses blueprint.
Stepping back from those micro-interactions, we can look at how entire lifespans are structured. Take Moses, perhaps the most consequential life in the Old Testament. He lived to be 120 years old, but his life isn't just a long, unbroken stretch of years. It is a perfect triad of 40-year segments. First, 40 years as a prince in Egypt, full of status and resources. Then, 40 years as a shepherd in Midian, a time of complete silence and the total stripping away of his ego. And finally, a third 40-year block as a deliverer in the wilderness, leading a whole nation. The narrative structure required this exact triad of time to get Moses' assignment right.
The source material uses this to make a really brilliant point about human impatience. I mean, we get frustrated if a life change takes 40 minutes, right? But the text suggests that long, silent waiting phases are not a delay. They are actually just the necessary second segment of a divine triad. It frames periods of apparent stagnation as structured preparation for the exact next phase.
Now for Section 4, the divine blueprint on a cosmic scale.
Zooming out completely to the cosmic scale, we can observe how ancient instructions were mathematically governed. When God gave instructions for how the high priest should approach him, the design wasn't just arbitrary. The high priest was commanded to wear a breastplate holding 12 specific stones, but they were to be arranged in an exact grid of 4 rows, with exactly 3 stones in each row. The triad is literally woven right into the very fabric of ancient worship.
And you know what? This architectural blueprint extends to the very end of the story too. The book of Revelation describes the final eternal city, and it utilizes this exact same math. There are 12 gates to the city, laid out perfectly as 3 gates on the north, 3 on the south, 3 on the east, and 3 on the west. It is a structure of absolute, total order and completeness.
This sense of completeness stretches across the entire text, from literature to lived experience. The monumental book of Isaiah, it's structured into 3 distinct literary movements: the king, the servant, and the conqueror. And when Jesus began his ministry, how was he tested? Yep, with exactly 3 wilderness temptations, proving he could pass the test where everyone else had failed.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, reaching your third day and moving beyond the shadows. The overarching takeaway from these texts is that the number 3 isn't just some ancient trivia to memorize. It actually represents a profound transition. It's the bridge from the shadow to the substance. It's the definitive marker within these narratives where a season of testing finally ends and a season of birth begins. It's the exact process by which raw, messy sons of thunder are transformed into apostles of love. The third day is the literary climax where the stone is finally rolled away. According to the sources, whether it's Peter's failure, Paul's thorn, or Moses' long wait, the triad is designed to show that a story just isn't finished until it reaches its third phase. God sees, he hears, and he draws near. So I'll leave you with this. If you feel like you are stepping into that transition, leave that absolute superlative word, kadosh, in the comments if you are ready for your third day. And if these ancient texts are truly woven with such intricate mathematical precision, what other hidden blueprints might be waiting to be decoded in the literature of the ancient world? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.